I'm Marty, and this is Basics of Faith. Last time we discussed the Edenic covenant, and today is the day that I've been looking forward to since this programming began. We're going to finally start studying the Bible, but first let's revisit a concept that we talked about a lot, though I believe it is relevant to our discussion today. We have said my soul is influenced either by God or by the world. And here's an example, okay? So if my soul is lost and I have no idea in which direction to go, I would need a compass to find true north. That's what a compass does. It finds true north for you. So if I have a Bible, and let's let it act like a compass. Okay, thank you. And so if I have a Bible, and if it acts like a compass, it can point me to the direction of the true God. Okay, that Bible can be the influencer to find God and give me direction in my life. In my life, I'm influenced by the world, society, and culture without even recognizing the direction it is trying to take me. The topic today will deal with the things that we may not know where they originated from, and we refer to them all the time. All the time we see this. But we probably have no idea where it comes from. This will contrast how God designed things and how the culture and society dealt with these things. My hope is you enjoy this as much as I enjoy presenting it to you. And another hope is that as you read the Bible and use the stuff that I've researched for you, that it enrich your understanding. So let's start with Genesis 1:1. We'll start at the very beginning here. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth. Okay? So we said last time that we really don't know when this occurred. But by the chronology of Adam, we know that it happened somewhere before 4000 BC. Okay? And so let's do 1:2. It says, the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. So that would be the Holy Spirit swept over the face. Okay? And here's the first day. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, and that was the first day. Okay. So from the very start, in society and culture today, at least here in the United States, we're different than the way God set it up. So a biblical day is from sunset to sunset. Okay? So like in 2011, my wife and I went to Israel. And we got off a plane. It was like 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and it was their Saturday morning. So their day started at sunset Friday night. So we arrived there in what you call the Sabbath. That's what Israel calls. Instead of like we do Sunday, they do Saturday, and that's their holy day, and that's their Sabbath day. Okay? So a biblical day is sunset to sunset. So that would go Friday night to Saturday evening. And over there, it basically pretty much everything shuts down. It's kind of like whenever I was a kid, I grew up in Kansas City, and back then Missouri had blue laws. And so none of the stores were open on Sunday. A lot of the restaurants weren't open on Sundays, you know. That's just the way it was. And we left out on a Saturday whenever we left Israel, and we went to the airport, and almost everything in that airport was shut down until sunset, and then they opened up. So they adhere to the Sabbath, and that is their seventh day. And like I say, it's sunset to sunset. I just want to make sure we understand that. So you see how society kind of changes things, and we grow up and we don't know any different, until you get into the Bible. You understand how God designed it. And we got other stuff like that. So let's talk about a day. And Schofield, I referred to him last time, but in his study Bible, it shows what he calls ancient, which I'm going to refer to as Old Testament, so that if you see these words in the Old Testament, you might have an idea of what he's talking about. So whatever they talk about night, that would be also another name for it would be first watch, and this would be until about midnight, okay? And then you have a middle watch, and that's from like midnight to 3 a.m., okay? The morning watch would be 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., and then morning in the ancient times would have been from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., okay? They referred to the heat of a day lasting until about 2 p.m., and then they called it day's decline, which that was from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then evening, or they also called it the cool of the day, was after 6 p.m. Okay, that's your ancient time. Now, in New Testament times, which you might see more time activity, so their first watch, okay, is from 6 to 9 p.m. So did you catch the difference between the New Testament time and the ancient time? Ancient time was until midnight, and they only went from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the second watch was midnight, which would be 9 to 12 p.m. Then they called it the third hour, which is 9 to noon. And then the ninth hour is 12 to 3. And then the 12th hour was 3 to 6 p.m. And what I want to point out here is the third watch is called the cock crow, and that's from 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. And I want to look at John 18:27 real quick. And you'll probably pick up on this. 18:27 says, again Peter denied it. This is talking about after Jesus' crucifixion, and Peter kind of ran away there. And at that moment, the cock crowed. So the Bible may be giving us an idea of what time of day we're talking about, and that would be from 12 to 3 a.m. I don't know, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. So let's talk about the days of a week. The days of a week would be first day to the seventh day in biblical days, okay? But we don't look at it that way, right? I mean, our first day we call Sunday. Okay, so this comes from Farmer's Almanac. And let me read this to you real quick. The Babylonians named the days after the 5 planetary bodies known to them. And they went from Tuesday to Saturday, okay? And after the sun and the moon, which was Sunday and Monday. This custom was later adopted by the Romans. Emperor Constantine, and some people call him Constantine, established a 7-day week in the Roman calendar in 321 and designated Sunday and Monday as the first 2 days of a week. Okay? So let me go through this. And these are what the Babylonians. The Babylonians are the ones that carried Judah and Benjamin away, and probably the Levites. Okay? Whenever the kingdoms split up, Israel was taken off by the Assyrians. We're going to get into all this, but Israel was taken off by the Assyrians, and the Babylonians dug off they basically sacked Jerusalem, and then they took the people that were left in Judah and Benjamin, took them away to Babylonia. So this is where Babylonia says the days of the week are. So the first day of a week is what the Bible calls it, is a day of the sun. Okay, the second day is day of the moon. Third day is day of Mars. Fourth day is day of Mercury. Fifth day is day of Jupiter. Sixth day is Venus Day. And seventh day is Saturn's Day. Okay? Let's go on here. Okay, so this is a Babylonian. Okay? The other weekdays names is in English are derived from Anglo-Saxon names for gods in Teutonic mythology. Okay, here we go. Tuesday comes from the word or the god Tiu, or some people call it Tiw, and this is for the Anglo-Saxon name for Tyr, Tyr, the Norse god of war. Okay, so this is where Tuesday comes from, and they use that Tiu, and then they turn it into Tuesday. Tyr. Okay, here we go. Tyr was one of the sons of Odin, and is also named as Woden, Odin, or he's also named as Woden, and he was the supreme deity from which Wednesday is named. So they use the Woden and turn that into Wednesday. Okay. Similarly, Thursday originates from Thor. He was the god of thunder. Okay, that's where you get Thursdays from, Thor. Friday is derived from Woden's wife, and her name was Frigga. This comes from the Farmer's Almanac. So I don't know if you call that Frigga or whatever, but this was Woden's wife, and she represented love and beauty, and this is where we get Friday. Okay? Saturday comes from Saturn, the ancient Roman god of fun and feasting. Okay. They changed it to the first day of the week was Sunday, and that was day of the sun, and Monday was day of the moon. Okay. So what you got going here is you've got three different, I want to call them, like empires or civilizations that came up with our day of the week. It's not like in the Bible, okay? So it's a combination of the Babylonians, the Romans, and the Anglo-Saxons. Constantine was Roman emperor, okay? Okay, let's go on here. So the first day we called that the Let There Be Light, okay? So like I say, in the biblical day would be first day. We know it as Sunday, and that's because of the Babylonians give it as day of the sun. Then let's read Genesis 1:6-8. And God said, "Let there be a dome in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So God made the dome and separated the waters that were under the dome from the waters that were above the dome, and it was so. God called the dome sky, and there was evening, and there was morning, and this was second day. So the second day would be Monday, as we know it, and this came from Babylonians' Day of the Moon. Okay, Genesis 1:9-13 says, And God said, Let the waters under the sky be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seeds, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought it forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, and this was the third day, which would be Tuesday in our realm. And this would be the Babylonians would have called it the day of Mars. And as we said, that the Tiu, and he was the Anglo-Saxon god for war, his name was Tyr. Okay, That's where that came from. Genesis 1:14-19 says, "And God said, Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be lights in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth. And it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And the stars, God set them in the dome of the sky to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day, over the night, and to separate it from the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, and this was the fourth day. The fourth day would be Wednesday. That was named after Woden, okay?
No, wait a minute. Is that the day he created the sun, moon, and stars?
Yes.
So wouldn't that make days different?
Yes, but now we're talking about months now, okay?
Right, but the sun, which side of the earth faces the sun is what makes light and dark a day for us.
Uh-huh.
So if God created days before that, days to God would not be the same as they are to us.
Right, but now we're trying to move into, we're not going to get to seasons yet. I think that's like the Noahic covenant. I really believe that's when the seasons come in, but we're now moving into, we're talking about months, okay? And we're skipping ahead here a little bit, but, okay.
So I'm sorry.
That's okay. The biblically, whenever we talk about months, okay, the Israelites used it on the what they call the lunar calendar, okay, which was based off the moon. Okay, you're going to see that the Romans changed that to a calendar based off of the sun. Okay, so let me go through this. The lunar calendar is sacred to the Jews, and these were their months. The first month is Nisan. The second has a different name, but you can also call it Ziv, Z-I-V. Third month is Sivan. Fourth month is Tammuz, T-A-M-M-U-Z. Fifth month is Ab, A-B. Sixth month is Elul, I guess. Seventh month is Tishrei. Eighth month has another name, but you can also call it Buell. Ninth is Chislev. 10th is Tebeth. 11th is Shebat. 12th is Adar. Okay? So now, let's talk about the ancient Roman calendar began. Okay, like our calendar now begins with January, February. January's first month. Well, the ancient Roman calendar began in March and ended in February. So I'm going to read to you from Wonderopolis. I pulled it offline. And this is what it says. Would you believe January was not always the first month of the year? The ancient Romans used a different calendar system, and their year began in March and ended in February. Even though our system may be quite different from the ancient Romans, they gave us something very important, the months' names. So let us take a look at how the ancient Romans chose the names of the 12 months of the year. Okay, so the first month, according to them, was March. The ancient Romans insisted that all wars cease during the time of celebration between the Old and the New Years. Since March was the first month of the new year in ancient Rome, some historians believe the Romans named March after Mars, the Roman god of war. Okay, so that's where we get March. April, there's three theories exist regarding the origin of April's name. Some say April got its name from the Latin word meaning second, since April was the second month on the ancient calendar. Others claim it come from Aperire or something like that. It's A-P-E-R-I-R-E. And that's a Latin word meaning to open, because it represents the opening of buds and flowers in the spring. Okay? Still others think that April was named after the goddess Aphrodite. So there's three different ways, and they really don't know. Let's move to May. May was named after Maya, M-A-I-A, and she was an earth goddess of growing plants. Apparently June has always been a popular month for weddings. The Romans named June after Juno, and she was the queen of gods and patroness of marriage and weddings. Okay? July was named after Julius Caesar in 44 BC, but previously July was called Quintilis, which means the fifth in Latin, or actually fifth. Okay, so Julius Caesar was an emperor of Rome. He wanted a month named after him, so he took July, which they called Quintilis. So he switched to Julius Caesar. So not to be outdone, August was a name after Augustus Caesar in 8 BC. Okay, so previously August was called Sextilia, which was the Latin name for 6. Okay, so he got his own month. Okay, this is where it gets a little complicated. Though we think of September, October, November, and December as 9, 10, 11, 12, okay, the months were actually 7, 8, 9, and 10 in the Roman calendar. And this is how they got their name. September's name came from septem, which is Latin for 7. October's name comes from octo, which is Latin for 8. November came from novum, which is Latin for 9. And December, kind of like decimal, December's name comes from Decem, Latin for 10. Okay? So here we go. We're going to switch it around now. So February, around 690 BC, which is Numa Pompilius, turned a period of celebration at the end of the year into a month of its own, named after a festival of Februa. This is how February got its name. January, later Pompilius added another month to the beginning of the year and named it January after Janus, the god of beginnings and endings. Okay? In 1582, Pope Gregory adjusted the calendar so most Western nations began celebrating the start of the year on January 1st. This new calendar became known as the Gregorian calendar, and that's the one we use now, okay? And however, England and American colonies continued to celebrate the new year on the date of the spring equinox in March. It was not until 1752 that the British and the colonies finally adopted the Gregorian calendar. It has been suggested that England rejected the Gregorian calendar because of St. Gregory, okay, which he was Catholic, and England was Anglican, okay? And so it was not until 1752 that the British and the colonies finally adopted Gregorian calendar, and so they switched it they adopted it, the Protestants adopted it, and it came to the United States. And I've heard that there's 11 days difference, and sometimes whenever you read it back in history, they'll have like an old time and a new time. I don't know exactly the phraseology, but it'll distinguish that 11 days they lost there. Okay? That's about all the time I got today. Boy, it flies. And I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next week. Bye.